welcome back. A quick little preview here for week 2 of the lower division DPC. This past week has been pretty intense, specifically in China as well, because their season has obviously been condensed. They're playing all their matches before Christmas. A lot of movement in that Chinese lower division, and I'm really excited for this next week because some teams are actually going to be finishing their entire seasons in this next coming week. For example, Team Neptune, who is playing in this first series here, which starts at 1 p.m. local time in China. They're off to a terrible start. They're 0-4 right now, and by the end of this week, they're going to be completely done their season. They're looking to not get relegated. They're going to need to win their next 3 series here. It's getting pretty dire for Neptune, and they're starting off by playing against Aries, which is one of the stronger teams in this region right now. They're off to a 2-0 start. They, of course, being the Aster B team, which features White Album right now, one of the strongest teams. Following that, on the same day at 4 p.m., we have Magma versus YBB. On Tuesday the 7th, we have Sparking Arrow Gaming versus Neptune. Again, Neptune needing to win this one, and Sparking Arrow Gaming looking to get a bit of a bounce back. They won their first series, they lost their next 2. They're 1-2 right now. They really need to get that second win going to get their momentum going. Following that, we have Extreme versus YBB, which should be a pretty fun one. To this point, Extreme has actually only played 1 series, which is pretty rare for teams in China right now. They did win that one, however, it was against Neptune, and everyone's beat Neptune so far. Following that, on the same day, 7 p.m., we have C-Deck versus Aries. That should be a pretty fun one. C-Deck, though, having a pretty rough start to the season. They are 0-2 right now. We'll have to see how they do in that matchup. On Friday the 10th, we have C-Deck again playing against Neptune Gaming. This is a series that they have to win. Again, Neptune is a team that is looking like a top contender for getting relegated, but C-Deck doesn't want to be that second team getting relegated as well. And then after that, we have Extreme versus Shenzhen, which is a pretty fun series I'm excited for. Shenzhen is 2-1 right now. Extreme, again, they've only played 1 series so far, but they looked pretty good in it, and they've got a pretty fantastic looking roster. So that's definitely a series I'm excited for. On Sunday the 12th, we have C-Deck versus YBB. That should be a fun one. Sparking Arrow Gaming after that against Aster Aries. That should also be a fun one. We'll see if Sparking Arrow by that point will have their momentum back, or if they're going to be looking like another team that's floundering near the bottom. And if Aster Aries is going to end up being that one of those teams that's going for that spot. It looks like right now Magma and Aster Aries and Shenzhen are the top contenders for that spot right now. And then finally, ending off the week, we have Magma against Extreme. This is going to be a fantastic series. Again, Extreme, only 1 series right now, but they have a pretty fun roster to watch. And Magma, 3-0 so far on the season. So I'm really excited for that one, and that one's going to end the week off in China. So yeah, by the end of this week, Neptune Gaming will be done their entire season so far. So they need to pretty much win everything else in this season to not get relegated. So we'll see how that goes, starting off at 1 p.m. later on Monday, which is just a few hours away in China. Again, I'm using local times for every region. I have them marked next to every region, just in case you're at all curious. For Southeast Asia now, of course, things a little bit slower because China has a condensed schedule, whereas everywhere else has a normal schedule. Every team playing a game in this region, which is a little bit different from every other region other than China, where there's one team having a break pretty much throughout this next week. Starting things out, we have 496 versus Polaris. 496 looking for a bounce back. They start off 0-2, pretty rough start. But it's a pretty rough matchup as Polaris looking pretty strong. They did beat Talon. They did have some weak moments in that series, notably in game 1, but it's not exactly going to be an easy series for 496 either, so we'll see how that one goes. On Wednesday the 8th at 12 p.m., we have Ragdoll versus Interactive Philippines. Both of these teams coming in from those open qualifiers. I don't recall if they've played against each other in those open qualifiers or not, but regardless, should be a fun watch. And then Thursday, on the 9th, we have Team Nigma, the Southeast Asian version, playing against Talon. I think this is going to be a really fun series. This is going to be Talon's attempt at a bounce back, looking to even things out with their record. Whereas Nigma, they looked pretty strong in their first series. They picked Meepo in that first game, which was pretty fantastic. And In Your Dream has been one of the best players in that whole lower division. Right now, I think he leads all the stats, GPM, XPM, and KDA in that whole lower division. So that should be a fun one. Later that day at 3 p.m., we have Polaris versus Lilgun. That's also going to be a pretty fun one, as Lilgun coming in from that upper division after getting relegated, and Polaris looking like a pretty decently strong team as well. And finally, ending things off, we have Saturday on the 11th at noon, Army Geniuses versus Talon. At this point, Talon will have already played 2 series. Will they be 0-2? Will they be 1-1? We don't know. But right now, Army Geniuses is 1-1. They're looking to pull ahead right now with a 2-1 record. So very important matches. Again, when there's only 7 series, every single series matters here. And if you lose 2 or 3 right off the bat, that really hinders your chances at not only making it to the upper division, but also it puts you as one of the top contenders for getting relegated. Moving now to Eastern Europe. Starting off our thing on Monday, which again is tomorrow, we have Nemiga playing against Hydra. Both of these teams having pretty decent starts. Nemiga didn't exactly get the results they were looking for, but they still looked competitive in that series against CIS Rejects. They did have a few weak points throughout that series, which ended up costing them, but regardless, that should be a fun one. Thursday the 9th, we have Gambit versus V Gaming, both of these teams coming off of wins as well. This should be a fun matchup. On Friday the 10th, we have 2 series in one day. We have Windstrike versus Fantastic Five. Both of these teams got off to 0-1 starts. For Fantastic Five, it was an unfortunate circumstance where they had a moment where everyone on their team disconnected in Game 3. However, they were already losing that game pretty hard. So it's not, I don't think that really would have affected anything, but it was still unfortunate for them. So we'll see who ends up pulling ahead with that one. Later that day at 8 p.m., we have Bait versus Hydra. This is going to be Bait's 3rd series. They need to win this one. If they lose this one, then their chances of upper division are gone. And they've notably had their highlights. I've talked about it like in my review that I did earlier today, which if you missed, I'll have it linked down below. But they tend to fall apart in the mid to late game a little bit here. So this will be a real test for them. If they get off to a start where they're 0-3, then they're looking like one of the top contenders for getting relegated. We'll have to see. Whereas Hydra, this will be their 3rd series as well. They looked very solid in their 1st series. We'll have to see how that first one against Nemiga goes. And ending off the week, Sunday the 12th, we have Fantastic Five versus Gambit playing their 2nd series of the week. This week, CIS Rejects has no matches. They just played 2 last week, and they just actually had one earlier today. So they're going to have the week off. Next up, Western Europe. On Monday the 6th, again, tomorrow, we have Entity playing against Ghost Frogs. Both of these guys got off to 0-1 starts. They're looking for a bit of a bounce back, and you don't want to be the team that gets off to an 0-1 start, especially in a division as competitive as Western Europe. Even though it is a lower division, it's still very likely that if you get off to an 0-2 start, you're one of the top contenders for getting relegated, which you don't want to be. On Tuesday the 7th, we have No Bounty Hunter versus Into the Breach. Again, 2 more teams that got off to 0-1 starts. They're looking for a bit of a bounce back there. On Friday, we have, on Wednesday, we have Chicken Fighters versus Chillax. 2 teams that get off to actually good starts. They're both 1-0 right now. We'll see which one ends up pulling ahead with a 2-0 start. The other one ends up being middle of the road with a 1-1 record. And later that day, we have Bald versus Entity. Bald, of course, looking pretty impressive, even in that series where they lost to Brame. I know that they were getting a lot of praise from the members on Brame for being very, very talented team, despite the fact that they don't scrim and all, but they're looking to be getting ahead here. They don't want to go down 1-2. An Entity at this point, they could be down 0-2 right now, or they could be 1-1, and whoever ends up winning the series is looking like they're going to be finishing near that top of the division. And finally, ending off the week in Western Europe, we have Into the Breach versus Chicken Fighters. Into the Breach notably did not look very solid in their first series there, and Chicken Fighters did, so we'll have to see how this series goes. But Into the Breach needs to start getting wins this week. They have 2 series. They're going to need to win at least one of them here if they don't want to be one of the teams up for that relegation. Moving now to North America, starting things off tomorrow, we have Electronic Boys versus DogChamp. Electronic Boys notably had a pretty rough go of it in their last series. In Game 2, right at the very start of it, their hard carry disconnected. He didn't return, and you can't get a sub to come in and play mid-game, so they lost that second game after winning the first, and then they bring in a sub for Game 3, but it didn't end up being enough. So unfortunate outcome for Electronic Boys, but they're looking for a bit of a bounce back here against DogChamp, who also had a pretty rough start. They go 0-1 so far. On Tuesday, we have 5-Man Midas versus The Cut. That's going to be an exciting one. They both got off to 1-0 starts. We'll have to see how it goes. On Friday the 10th, we have KBU.US versus 5-Rat 4-Staff. 5-Rats 4-Staff just lost their first series earlier, just before I started recording this. We'll have to see if they bounce back or not. And then we have Felt versus Electronic Boys. So Electronic Boys with their second series of the week here. That's going to be on Sunday the 12th. And then on DogChamp versus 5-Man Midas at 6 p.m. on Friday. The only team not playing this week is Team Magnus. They're actually in a series right now. I was hoping that it would be a 2-0, so it would finish before I recorded this, but of course it went to a third game. They're playing against Felt right now, and Felt is off to an 0-1 start, so they're hoping to win that third game so they don't end up 0-2. And finally, ending things off with South America, starting things off in our week, we have Infinity versus Enteritus, 2 teams that get off to pretty good starts, pretty impressive starts, 1-0 each. That's going to be a fun one. On Thursday, the 9th, we have Gorilla Pride versus Balrogs. That's also going to be a pretty fun, exciting series to watch. as both of those teams as well, starting off 1-0. Gorilla Pride notably was one team that I got to watch live because no other Tier 1 teams were playing at the same time, and they were a team that I was pretty impressed with, not gonna lie, so we'll see. Next up at 3 p.m. that same day, we have Wolf, previously known as Our Way, which is the King RD stack. I don't know if that's actually what they're renaming themselves to. I kind of preferred their old name, but regardless, they're going to be up against Omega. Both of these guys have rough starts. They start 0-1. We have Unknown versus Enteritus. This is going to be a rough series for Unknown. They start off 0-2, and Enteritus is off to a pretty strong start. We'll have to see how it goes for them, but they need to start getting some wins to avoid this relegation here. And then finally, ending things off on Sunday the 12th, we have Infinity versus Balrogs. So pretty exciting end there to see Infinity. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I'm going to have my preview for the upper division, including my fantasy picks, going up tomorrow. If you missed my CIS or my SEA review of week 1, feel free to check them out on my channel. I'll have them linked down below in the description. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.